When people talk about the collapse of Rome, they picture chaos at the borders, barbarian armies breaking through weakened defenses, emperors betrayed, poisoned, or murdered inside lavish palaces. But history tells a far more uncomfortable truth. Great empires rarely fall only because of enemies at the gate. They collapse because something essential breaks inside. And again, that something is money. Rome did not die in a single moment. It unraveled slowly, quietly. And one of the most destructive forces behind that unraveling was the collapse of its currency. Long before the final sack of the city, Rome had already destroyed the foundation of trust that held its economy together. For centuries, the Roman world ran on a single pillar of confidence, the silver denarius. First minted in the Roman Republic, it became the bloodstream of the empire. Soldiers were paid in it, merchants demanded it, families saved it. The denarius was not just a coin, it was belief stamped in metal. As long as Rome appeared strong, its money remained trusted. And as long as the money held value, the empire could function. But empires are expensive machines. Armies must be fed and paid, borders defended, roads, cities, and aqueducts maintained. By the 2nd century, Rome was overstretched. Threats pressed from every direction. Tax revenues lagged behind military spending. Raising taxes risked rebellion. So Roman leaders reached for an easier solution, one that governments have always found tempting. They diluted the money. Instead of collecting more silver, emperors quietly reduced how much silver went into each coin. The denarius still looked the same, it carried the same imperial face, but inside it was being hollowed out. Under Augustus, the coin was almost pure silver. Within a century, that purity fell sharply. By the 3rd century, the silver content had collapsed to a shadow of its former self. What once rang with solid metal became a bronze disc coated in a thin silver skin. People noticed, and when people lose faith in money, everything changes. Prices rose because coins no longer represented real value. Wages failed to keep up. A unit of grain that once cost a single coin now demanded many. Soldiers demanded higher pay just to survive. Merchants refused debased coins or demanded payment in gold. Trade slowed. Barter returned. Local economies fractured as trust vanished. And each attempt to fix the crisis only made it worse. More coins were minted, less value backed them. Confidence eroded further. Rome had entered a spiral. The breaking point came during the 3rd century crisis. For decades, the empire was rocked by invasions, disease, civil war, and economic collapse. Emperors rose and fell at a terrifying pace. But behind the violence was a silent disaster. The financial system no longer worked. Taxes were collected in money no one trusted. Farmers abandoned land rather than surrender worthless coins. Trade routes collapsed. The empire was still standing, but its economic heart was failing. One emperor tried brute force. Diocletian believed prices could be controlled by law. In the year 301, he issued an edict fixing prices for thousands of goods and wages. Violations were punished with death. It failed instantly. Markets vanished. Black markets exploded. No decree can give value to broken money. Eventually, Rome gave up on the denarius entirely. A new gold coin, the solidus, restored stability in the East, but it came too late for the Western Empire. The damage was done. The economy had been hollowed out from within. Armies weakened. Trade networks shattered. Trust evaporated. Rome's fall was not sudden. It was a long decay, accelerated by monetary collapse. And Rome was not the last. Fast forward centuries, and the same pattern reappears. After World War I, Germany faced crushing debt. To escape it, the government printed money. At first, it seemed harmless. Then, inflation exploded. By 1923, money lost meaning. Savings vanished. Wages became worthless overnight. Social order cracked. Extremism filled the vacuum. Once again, a society learned that destroying money destroys stability. Zimbabwe followed the same road. Economic pressure led to printing. Printing led to collapse. Prices doubled daily. The currency died. People survived only by abandoning it entirely. Even modern economies are not immune. When currencies lose their anchor, purchasing power erodes slowly, then suddenly. Bills remain familiar, numbers grow larger, but value quietly drains away. What looks like prosperity masks extraction. What sounds like growth often hides inflation. This is the lesson Rome teaches us. Inflation is not an accident, it is policy. It is the silent tax that has destroyed empires for 2,000 years. Elites protect themselves with assets. Ordinary people pay the price through lost savings, shrinking wages, and broken trust. Money is not just a medium of exchange, it is a social contract. When that contract breaks, societies fracture. Rome believed it could cheat reality. It could not. No empire ever has. History does not repeat itself exactly, but its warnings remain brutally consistent. Ignore them, and the outcome is never in doubt. If this changed how you see money and power, subscribe, because history still speaks if you're willing to listen.